nerds? We're back. Welcome to season 3 of the Unvaulted podcast. I'm your host, Squatingdog, but I guarantee you our guest will call me boss over 100 times today. I really hope your holidays was enjoyable this year. I know COVID has caused a strain on most families in some way or form, and I hope that my streams, or at least this podcast, can lift your spirits. On the last season of the podcast, we looked at some legends and talked about the future of Fortnite, and here we are. Chapter 3 is upon us, and on this season of the podcast, we are going to put a pulse on what's going on in Chapter 3 and follow its evolution. So, to get this season of the podcast started, I thought we'd start with a real talker. This pink-haired legend has done incredible content in the creator space and dances to his own tune. If you join in on one of his streams, you'll be encouraged, inspired for your day. He isn't your typical sweat, and we're all here for it. Welcome, the one and only ActingLikeTommy.
Let's go, boss! Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here. Like, I'm really honored to be here to be a part of this today.
Did I miss anything in your introduction at all?
I don't think so. I was actually vibing to that introduction. That was like, I don't know. It got me revved up.
It's really easy, I feel like, to get you revved up. So it's good to have you on.
It is sometimes. You know, I've always had an excess of energy. And like almost to the point of, you know, where there's so much, it's hard to get things done. And it's just been really crazy, like finding Fortnite and finding streaming and this type of content. Like my energy fits into it really well. And so it's been a blessing. It's good to be here.
Absolutely.
Let's go, baby.
Let me tell you a little bit about our goal, okay?
Okay.
For this season, we're trying to, have a nice little pulse on Chapter 3.
Okay.
There's a lot that has happened from Chapter 2 to Chapter 3.
Yeah.
And my hope is that we're going to give context for our listeners who are listening in and don't know this is happening or don't know about you. Shame on you if you don't know about it.
How could you not know about me?
What the heck are you doing? So let's get started with some icebreakers. I want to make sure that anybody listening who might not know who you are has a little bit of context for who you are. Sound good?
Great.
So my first question, and I feel like this one is a classic.
Here we go.
If anybody is going to check out your content, they're going to ask themselves this question right away. Why pink hair? And what was the inspiration behind it?
All right. Well, my parents are Muppets. No, that's like the chat command that we use. But no, so the pink hair is like, first of all, I have a rock and roll background. Mm-hmm. When I was a younger guy, I spent 16 years playing rock music. I used to tour the country as a one-man indie rock band. So I've had like various colored hair since the 90s, right? It's just been a staple of who I am. I think it's because I have a flamboyant personality, right? I love the color pink because of the whole gender bending nature of it. Like, you know, I'm 52. I grew up at a time where pink was looked at as a girl's color. It was like pink girls, boys blue. I'm a very masculine dude who also is very feminine. And I like breaking those sort of like whenever somebody puts a boundary around who and what we're supposed to be, I like to break that. And to me, pink is always like I've identified with it because it's kind of like bright red, but it's not as angry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is. It's like more exciting.
That's
and
awesome.
So I actually went back to the pink.
Wait, what did you transition from? What was it prior?
So I've been a sort of bleached white, right? I've always bleached my hair and, you know, having the faux hawk, a little spiky with whatever's left up top there. So I always would bleach it to like a platinum white, right? And that's what I had been doing in the beginning. Actually, in the beginning, it was like a bleached white. And then I went back to the color.
It looks beautiful. I just feel like
I like it. Like when people get to know me, it just sort of makes sense with me. It
totally does.
Fits the personality for sure.
So tell me about your origin story of your gamer tag. If you're ever looking this gentleman up, you're going to be looking up ActingLikeTommy. What's that all about? How'd you get that as your name?
Well, so it's kind of a weird story because it wasn't a gamer tag. That had actually been my social media name since 2013. And what it was is like after I quit music, my son was born. I was kind of living on the road until he was born. And I didn't want to be on tour because I wanted to be a dad. And so my next adventures were I went to film school at 40. And about a year into film school, I started making money doing work, editing as a grip, et cetera, et cetera. So I quit film school, and then I eventually found my way to acting. So back in 2013, I had gotten the domain actingliketomy.com, and I had
Oh,
intended to do a YouTube channel of like sketch comedy, acting like Tommy, because I'm sort of a really unique, sort of flamboyant individual. I'm
yeah.
the same guy wherever I go. You know what I mean? Whether I go to the grocery store on stream or like my girlfriend's parents' house, I'm just the same dude. I'm always acting like Tommy. So when I started streaming, I actually used a different
Mm.
name for like 2 weeks and there was no traction. And
What
then I
was it?
quit and I didn't really like it. And then I got a blue screen and decided to try it again. And I used my actual social media name. And here we are.
What was the other one that didn't get
The
traction?
the other one was Lavender Tommy,
Okay.
which was like the cooler blue version of myself. It was also I had an acoustic, like I had a recording studio I owned 20 years ago called the Lavender Lab, and
Mm.
Lavender Tommy was like an acoustic side project at the time.
Love that. Love that. Does anybody ever call you alt for acting like
They
Tommy?
do, yeah,
Yeah.
ALT, and I
Oh.
use that obviously in the icon and stuff,
Hmm.
and that's another like fun accident with the acting like Tommy that like, I didn't plan it that way, but the fact that it spells alt is just perfect.
Fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. So what got you into content creation and streaming Fortnite in particular?
All right. So, well, it was a total accident. Like now, content creation, I've been involved in my whole life. Like as a kid, I had a Commodore VIC 20, Commodore 64. I was trying to program video games and, trying to learn machine language and stuff like that. We're talking back in the 80s, dude.
Right.
And I loved gaming, but there was no future in gaming then, right? So I went to UCLA, but I became a musician and I created
Mm.
musical content and I created my own flyers and I did my own album artwork. And then eventually I went into like programming websites, doing PHP and designing websites and learning graphic design. So I was always making content related to my music.
Mm.
Right. And, MySpace, I used to book tours with MySpace and I was like an early adopter of social media. Then Instagram, if you scrolled back through my profile, you'd see that I was heavily into photography on
Mm.
Instagram and sort of first built my following to a couple thousand followers doing photography. And then as an actor and director. Now, the way I found Twitch streaming was totally accidental because I never intended to be a streamer. I never
Mm.
intended to be a gamer. I merely loved Fortnite. Like I was
Oh,
obsessed with Fortnite. My kid had played it. He introduced me to it. And Fortnite was like how I would unwind, right? Now, what I
yeah.
was actually doing is I had been working at a bar in Portland, the Doug Fur. I quit that job in 2016 to be a director. And I put all my resources into making short films. I was living on credit cards. I got an indie TV show on Amazon Prime. I was going down to LA and meeting with showrunners, trying to like sell a TV show or get into a writer's room. I was writing screenplays every day and it was just
Wow.
not going anywhere. I
Mm.
was like stuck. We had been living on credit cards for 3 years. We had a
Dang.
massive amount of debt. And around that time, I was playing Fortnite a couple hours every day. And
Mm.
then my son quit playing. And he and I used to play Fortnite together when he was at his mom's house so we could kind of hang out while
Yeah.
he was there. He's there half the week. And then when he quit, I started queuing into random duos, random squads. And everyone I queued in, the people would hear me talking about the game and they would all ask me, "Are you streaming
Are
right
you
now?
a streamer? Yeah.
You sound like a streamer." And I heard that over and over again.
Mm.
And now in the back of my mind, I was thinking, is there a way I could play Fortnite for a living? Because I
Yeah.
love playing Fortnite. Like, if this is possible, we got to investigate this. So I talked it over with my lady and decided to give it a try. And then I started it for 2 weeks under Lavender Tommy, and I didn't like it. Then
Huh.
I did it again. She actually encouraged me to try it again.
Wow.
I got the
Cool.
blue screen, went with acting like Tommy, and then it just kind of started taking off. And it really like there's something about it that like it completes my soul. in a
Mm,
way. Like, I don't know what it is, but it just felt like the perfect fit for me right away.
that's
And
amazing.
and a year and a half later, we were out of debt. So there you
Wow,
go, man. It's like
congratulations. That's
it was
awesome.
risky though. It was
Totally.
a big risk, but
It seems
total
like you're a
accident.
risk taker. I mean, I feel like every industry that you've tapped into is involved with some sort of risk.
Yeah, yeah, I am. I mean, I grew up in a family where I was the youngest of 7 kids, and I like to climb the biggest tree in the neighborhood. Like, that's just always been my mentality, you know?
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
great.
I like that being on the edge, you know?
Mhm. I feel like this next question I have for you, I feel like I'm excited to talk to you about because I feel like your story was like, yo, gaming isn't lucrative, when back in the day. I
Right,
also feel like when I was growing up, my parents were like, you know what, put the video games down, like go to college, make
right.
sure you go that route. And now I wish like, man, I wish I would have stuck with that from the very beginning because I feel like it would be night and day difference in terms of like where I'd be at. So I'm curious for you because when I look at your Twitch channel, if you pull up acting like Tommy, it reads world's oldest Fortnite pro.
Right.
So I want to dive into age in gaming a little because there's definitely
Okay.
the stigma about children being exclusively allowed to play video games.
Right.
And I would love to hear your experience being older in this space as a whole.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's complicated because I came from a little bit of similar background to you with as a kid, gaming was looked down upon. Parents, don't games are a waste of time. That stuff's a
Right.
waste of time. Don't be watching TV all the time. I mean, always this idea that consumption of media is bad for you, right?
Hmm.
And sure, there are risks with everything. Some of those same boomers that used to say games are bad for us are now like, what are they doing on Facebook? It's like
Yeah.
melting their brains, right?
Right.
But so, all right, there is an age stigma. There's definitely an age stigma. There's a gaming stigma. Like I get it a
Hmm.
lot from these young kids who come in and say, like, get a real job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, well, to me, only a person who's never had a real job would say get a real job because real jobs suck. They do. They absolutely suck. They're the worst.
Uh-huh.
I have spent my entire life avoiding having any type of a quote real job because I like to play,
Yeah.
right? And I always
Right.
have. And creativity to me is about play. But in gaming, it's extra tough because it seems like gaming is a teenage boy thing,
Sure.
right? So if you're not a teenage boy and you're successful, you get like extra hate,
Hmm.
right? And that's
Hmm.
why I'm friends with a lot of women streamers. I feel like I relate to them a lot because they get that same type of hate
Sure.
where you're not a teenage boy. How dare you be successful at this thing that's supposed to belong to us?
Right.
And I think for me, it really sometimes gets crazy because there are some people that are like the teenagers are naturally better at the game than us.
Sure.
Like Fortnite is a young man's game. Like, let's face it, it's true. The reflexes and the brain
Hmm.
processing speed of these 14-year-olds, I can't keep up with that. So you have these kids that come in and see somebody who's like their dad's age, who has the job that they think I'm better than this guy. I
Right.
should have that job. We're
Right.
gonna we're gonna try to make him pay.
Uh-huh. We're gonna
That's the
stream snipe this
dynamic.
guy until he cries.
Yeah, and I kind of have fun with it though because I'm okay with that kind of like I'm not intimidated by that kind of energy. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like you can't turn me away from things easily, right? But I think there's a lot of stigmas with gaming in the community itself about like
Hmm.
who it belongs to and what kind of human what you need to be in order to be in it. And like anything else, I like to break those barriers.
And what ways
Yeah.
have you been doing that through streaming? I'm curious of like I'm sure you get like, you get all like excited to break this type of stigma. How have you
I
been doing
do.
that?
Well, and I try to do it with sort of like I do it in a number of ways. I mean, on one way, I break the stigma simply by being myself.
Yeah.
Because in actuality, like buried in this 52-year-old man is a teenage boy. that
Totally.
that has never grown up and never will grow up, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
incredibly responsible,
Right.
right? And I'm incredibly business minded, but I'm not growing up for anything. So on the one level, I am still that teenage boy, and so I think I'm able to relate to them on a
Mm,
level that a lot of people are like, how am I relating to this 50-year-old man? How is he one of us? Because I really am one of them. And
yeah.
with much of the community, I see that. And then in other ways, I think some of it is really about open and honest communication. Like I pull no punches when I talk about the things I see and who I am, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really open, and I think that helps. And then sometimes I talk a lot of trash too, which maybe doesn't help, but it's fun and it's entertaining,
I love
right?
that. I love that. That's so good. Yeah, and I think that's an important conversation that hopefully will come out of this podcast. It's like that gaming is for everyone, and these stigmas, although might be ever present, doesn't mean we can just sit there and let them, have power over us. And so I applaud you of like you pushing into that, leaning into that, and also just having fun with it because I
Oh,
think that's why people
absolutely.
show up is you are so fun to be around.
Yeah.
And
Thank
it's like
you.
you're the guy that you want next to you at a party. Like you're that guy. And so people are drawn to you naturally. And I think that that's a huge benefit to why you have grown so significantly this last few years. It's
Oh,
wild.
thanks, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I do have a magnetism. I've noticed this in life. But I'm glad, and part of it is I feel like I'm in the right community. Like I
Mm,
really belong in the gaming community. Like, and I felt that from the beginning. And another thing though, you said something at the beginning of this question where the world's oldest Fortnite pro. And using that word pro has
mhm.
caused a lot of controversy around me, right? Because
Yeah.
because what's interesting, what I've noticed is not only is there that stigma about who can and can't game, but I think there's a greater stigma that kids use to label themselves that I
Mm,
talk to them a lot about, like how they believe that, because they're constantly asking me, like, Tommy, why do you call yourself a pro? And it's like, well, I have a little bit of earnings. I've gotten some top 100 placements and I make a living playing Fortnite. You know what I'm
right.
saying? So that's why I call myself a pro because I am a pro, right? Am I a tier 1? No, not even
Sure.
close. Like I'm a
Sure.
bottom tier pro, but I'm also like top 5 or top 10 worldwide in my age group,
Right.
right? And they don't
Huge.
want to look at that, but a lot of these kids though, I think they feel like they need to label themselves like
Mhm.
they think they can't be a pro. And I think anybody can be a pro if you have the drive. And then or you can at least try it. And if you fail, then you'll find the next thing, And
Right.
and I've tried to really be mind opening about that, about like like kids, stop feeling like you need to put yourself in a box because you don't,
Mhm.
Just go out there and be you.
It's huge. I love it.
Yeah.
I love all of that. Just
Thank you.
highlight, post. That's
I
so good. That's so good. Okay, so something that other people will pick up if they come by your stream is that you use the term boss a lot.
do.
Where did that come from, and why is it so popular in your community right
All right. So that's a little weird, right? Because
now?
I thought I knew where it came from, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
back when I was like the screenwriter, I wrote this TV show, right? About like toxic masculinity and this guy that you don't want to be. It's called Dick Strange. It's on Amazon Prime. It's not really for the kids, but I wrote this short form TV show and I have a friend, one of the Jackass guys named Danger Aaron. He's a
Uh huh.
buddy of mine. And I
He's
wrote
great.
the character for him, right?
Mm.
He was supposed to be Dick Strange. I was going to direct it. Time conflicts with like the Red Bull motocross tours or whatever. And like Aaron couldn't be in it. So I rewrote the script in my voice and I played Dick Strange. Now, I was certain that the term boss came from that character, that the character Dick Strange used the term boss. But like
Hmm.
3 months ago, that was the origin story. That's where it came from. But 3 months ago, me and Jenny were at the beach and I actually watched Dick Strange for the first time in like years, like
Uh
since
huh.
I'd made it. And he never said boss, the character. So I don't really know. Now I have no idea where it came from because I
no.
swore it came from that character. So maybe when I rewrote it, or maybe it was like a
Sure.
season 2 thing. I don't know. So I don't know. I just know that I've used it for a long time. And to me, like when I was a younger guy, when I was a kid, I hated being called things like buddy,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Like the buddy minimizes. It
Yeah.
feels like it makes the person small. And I feel
Mhm.
like boss makes people big. And we
Mm.
all deserve to be big, right? Nobody should try to make us be smaller versions of ourselves. So I feel like boss just elevates. And I think that that's why it like took off, right? It's
Yeah.
like because like at the end of the day, like we all deserve to be elevated, you know?
You're amping me up, man. We got
All
to do
right,
this
let's
weekly.
go.
Nice job.
Let's go, boss.
So good. It's so good.
But boy, did that that's one of those things that's just a weird thing about this journey with things like the acting like and the boss, where they've become like a part of the greater community and taken on a life of their own, you know?
Yeah.
I never intended that to happen, but I think it's
Right.
really cool that it did.
Okay, so already so much good stuff here, but if you were to give a unique piece of advice to anyone who wants to follow in your footsteps, they see you as an inspiration, whether no matter the age, they just see you as an inspiration. They want to follow their own path. What advice would you give to anybody for content creation? Playing Fortnite professionally, any of that?
Right. I mean, I think there actually is one thing that I think that really defines me. And what it is be about the process, not the
Mm,
results. Right.
okay.
And what I mean by that is we have a tendency in this world we live in where everyone's looking at results, and like they live by the results. They're chasing the results, the placements, the viewer count, the whatever, right? But if you're going to really do content, or in a greater way, if you're really going to do life with passion, right? And not lose motivation and not deal with like surviving, to be able to survive the pressures of the outside world, you have to fall in love with the process,
Yeah.
right? Become process oriented, which means like for me, I don't care what the viewership is. I don't care what the room size is. I don't care if I'm getting first place or 2000th place. Like what I love is the stuff that I do every day,
Yeah.
right? I love creating the content, making the TikToks, being live on stream for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Going through the ups and downs of failing at tournaments and the chaos that happens with social media, because I love the process and the results. Like I can't control the results, but I can control the process. We all can. You can make your goal like 100,000 subs on YouTube, but you can't control how fast that happens. But if you make your goal, make 100 YouTube videos, you can
Yeah.
control making 100 YouTube videos, right? And so that's my advice, is to like people always ask me how I deal with motivation. Like I don't get unmotivated because I stay in love with the process. And as long as you do that, as long as you love your process, you wake up every day looking forward to the stuff you
Yeah.
do,
That's great.
right? And then the results come and go, man. Come and go, baby.
Yeah. Love it.
That's what I do. That's just how I roll.
That's huge. Love it. Love it. All right. So acting like Tommy. I know we recently met, and this could be a little awkward to ask, but I don't
Okay.
have a sponsor for today's video. So I was wondering if I could borrow one from you and give it back to you tomorrow. Do you have any sponsors for today's video?
Sponsors for
Do you
today's
have any
video.
merch? Or do you have any anything that you want to advertise for people
I
to come check out?
do. You
Give it
ready?
to me.
I'm
Give
gonna
it to
go
me.
grab something right now.
Please, please,
All right.
please. I was kind of hoping, while he's going to get this, I was kind of hoping he would have a jingle or something, because he's music minded.
All right. Now,
All right, let's see this.
today's podcast is it's not just a sponsor. It is a way of life. All right. It is a way of life. It is a belief system right?
Yeah.
That is about achieving the unattainable always and belief in yourself because you are limitless.
Limitless.
Let's go.
Let's
And this is
go.
the official Acting Like Tommy Limitless merch. You see the copyright ALT 2021, but it's the term comes from a song of mine, Limitless, from back in my musician days. But I believe it is a way of life. It is a belief system that I think we all can attach ourselves to.
And if you're listening right now, this hoodie is bright pink, just like his hair, and it's got electric. What are those?
Those are like lightning bolts on the arms,
down
down
the
the sleeves.
I was gonna try to just so you know, I was gonna try to order one of these and get it to me so that I could be wearing it during today's podcast.
Oh, that
but
would
it
have been
didn't come in
amazing.
on time, so unfortunately. But
Oh,
I'm excited to pick one up.
yeah.
Well, thank you
They're
for
amazing.
sponsoring
Available at www.actingliketomy.com.
There you go. There you go. That's our today's sponsor. All right, so let's dive into
Let's go. The free plug.
We're hyping you up, bro. This is the whole point of this podcast. It's
Oh
about
my
you.
gosh.
This is great.
I love you, man.
So let's talk about let's dive into chapter 3. Okay. So for those that are listening, chapter 3 season 1 in Fortnite is upon us. And for context, which each chapter is like a fresh restart on the game is kind of a good way to look at it. New island, new guns, and a lot of just tons of new stuff. Upon recording this, we're like 6 weeks in, and Epic has released some new weather mechanics to the game. So we got like tornadoes, we've got like lightning storms, and they adjusted some of the weapons to kind of like make SMGs a little bit less powerful and ARs, which has been kind of like a good chunk of the meta. And so I'm going to dive in with Tommy here to talk about like what all of this means right now. Okay. So my first question to you, Tommy, is like, what is your immediate reaction to chapter 3 as a whole? You've played chapter 2. We're in chapter 3, a lot of new. What's your immediate reaction to what's changed?
Yeah, my immediate reaction to chapter 3 was I loved it. And I loved it for the number one reason why I loved it, obviously the new map was helpful, right? Anytime there's a brand new map, but so much of it had changed. There was a lot of change, like big changes to the meta, like sweeping changes. And to me, I really have liked that. Like to me, the whole pumps, launch pads, snipers, right? That just is very boring to me. That one-dimensional box 203 meta, I feel like is really one-dimensional and boring. And even with chapter 2, my favorite season in chapter 2 was season 6 with the primal weapons and the crafting and the lack of movement, right? And so I like the big sweeping changes. So I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Now, it's not without its own frustration. And me personally, I had been playing a ton of Zone Wars. So my SMG, like even in the end of chapter 2, I had been carrying an SMG. It had become one of my, like the P90 was one of my prime weapons. Even in the end games, in comp end games, I was like using a P90 just to shred through the builds. And, you know, because I'm not as fast as these editor kids. So the shredding weapons are helpful for me. So I felt like Donnie made the meta for me. It's like, dude, this is my meta. Let's go. Let's go.
Epic Games called you up and were like, what do you want?
Dude, they were just reading this giant forehead of a mind, boss.
No, but I agree in terms of a spectator sport, right? Which I mean, a lot of comp players want some of the glory, and the glory means spectators are watching you. People are paying attention to what you're doing. And I feel like to a spectator to watch the same thing over and over again gets old. And I think like that's a really huge reason why there's really big content creators that are professional at the game, and then a bunch of people that aren't like as successful in a spectator sport, because they're replicating the exact same thing over and over again and perfecting it, which is great. But then you don't get the spectator value that a lot of them are hoping get accompanied with the glory of like top 3, right? And so I think like my biggest complaint about chapter 2 is like we're just seeing the same thing. And I remember when Fortnite wasn't as competitive at the beginning, chapter 1, and they would add a new gun and it would completely affect how everything is played. And
Everything.
watching like a content creator or like a professional learn how to use that weapon in an environment to help them succeed was some of the most exciting spectator experiences I've ever had with the game.
I agree. I agree. And I think that's been one of the struggles is I think what has happened is at least in the comp scene, there are certain parts of the comp scene where people have gotten so like accustomed and so fantastically skilled with that one meta that they just don't want to learn anything else.
Right.
And so then if something new comes along, they automatically tag it as unskilled. But I don't buy that
Yeah,
because
I
I
don't
think
either.
it's just a different skill. Like we're all out there trying to survive the 2 SMG like
Mhm.
shredding now. And it's going to be those of us who adapt to that
Mhm.
who do really well. And I think though when you think about it, if you look at competition in its most exciting form, it's about adapting to the new variables.
Right.
And there's that in every sport, right? You go, even if you go in the NFL, some people are in stadiums, some are on grass, some are on turf. Sometimes it's snowing,
Yeah.
sometimes it's pouring down rain. It's like who can
Mhm.
adapt to the ever changing, like, if every NFL thing was played on the exact same field, temperature controlled with the exact same turf, like it wouldn't be as exciting. You know what I mean? It's like that adaptation is what makes you have to participate in the ever-changing evolution
Right.
or you will not keep up.
Well,
And
I
I think
even
it's good for the game.
I even think of like old time gladiators, where they're like there's a king just watching and like not entertained. There's like two
Right.
people fighting, and he's like, "What if we threw in a cougar?" Or what
Right.
if, what if we like shot flaming arrows at them? Like the audience is like, yes, like so excited about it. And then like the two gladiators, I'm sure, are like, this sucks. This sucks for
Right.
me. But to
Absolutely.
everybody else, it's like, this is amazing. Who's gonna survive? Like that's really fun from a spectator standpoint. And I think like if more competitive players got more excited about that energy, I feel
Right.
like it would pay out a little bit more in their attitude of like, no, it needs to be the one pump meta.
Right. Yeah, I mean, competitive though is like it's hard.
Oh,
It
totally.
it is hard because like you not only do you have the grind of like staying skilled and then like, Epic comes in, now you got to learn a new meta, right? But then you're like trying to balance keeping teams together, outside expectations,
Sure.
social media beefs, all the
Mhm.
like backstabbing, like because everybody's hungry for that attention and like so it's just hard. And I mean, I think it's really hard when you have people who've been playing the game for years and years. Like last night at 3 in the morning, I couldn't sleep. I was watching these ninja videos from chapter 1, season
Yeah.
2, right?
Mhm.
When he was like drinking a big pot, he'd just build 2 walls. He wouldn't even build a full box to drink a big pot. And the game, like, we're literally not even playing the same game.
No,
It's a different game now than it
entirely.
was in 2018. Like, and so like I think with some of the comp people, like having gone through that, who've been competing from the beginning, it's got to be really hard.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes a toll. It takes a toll, but I don't know. I like a challenge, man. I
Yeah.
don't, and I know not everybody's like that, but I love the switching metas. I think it's good for the game. I think it's good for the long-term health of the game too.
I feel
Uh,
like it wouldn't it I don't think the game would be as successful as it is if it didn't change,
Oh,
right? You know what I
absolutely.
mean? Like it's like
Yeah.
a necessary reality that if it doesn't, like, I can't tell you how many times I'll do a fill and I'll hear on the mic like, I just came back to the game, I haven't played it forever. And I've heard this almost on repeat. Like there's so many people that are coming back to chapter 3 because they changed up the meta,
Right.
because there's new things that can happen and new ways of playing. And what's great about that is it's a reset button for literally everyone. So the person that doesn't want to learn the new meta is on more equal footing than somebody who's not. And I feel like
Absolutely.
that's just the reality of like game evolution, is it has to evolve in order for people to be excited to come back.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, I've always thought there's even more that Epic could do, right? Like one of the things that I've thought that would be really interesting would be a true skill-based arena option,
Hmm.
right? Like imagine a competitive option that's like arena with the siphon and the moving circles where it's true skill-based matchmaking, which means they're not looking at wins or points, but they're
Hmm.
taking in-game data like
Yes.
editing speed
Yes.
and
Yes.
targeted your aim is, and then they create a game mode where you could compete against only people of your skill level. So junior
Oh, yeah.
players that are trying to grow could be getting into lobbies of people with their same talent level and grinding against those guys instead of the one dude who's getting 36 kills with the Spidey, wiping everyone off.
Yep.
And then those guys would have an option to get into lobbies with people their own talent level if they wanted to challenge themselves.
Yep.
But sometimes I feel like the people that are swinging around getting the 30 kills, they don't want that challenge, right? They don't want an equal challenge. And I think tempering that is actually a good idea because I talk about this a lot on with like why is the NFL so exciting? Because they use parity. The worst teams get the best draft picks.
Yep.
And they try to make it so on any given Sunday, any team, the 0-10 team still could beat the
Yep.
10-0 team because it makes it more exciting, right? It's
Yeah,
like that
absolutely.
only helps the game in the long run, right?
To
And
my
I would
listeners, I
love
was
to
just
see something
nodding my
like that.
head that entire time he was talking. I
Dude,
totally
that
agree.
would be so
I totally
amazing.
agree.
And you wouldn't have to switch regular arena, but then there could be like maybe that competitive arena where you play against your own skill level. Maybe that one gives you free skins.
Totally.
And that one gives you some sort of benefits. If you're willing to challenge yourself on an equal footing, you can reap the rewards. I think it would be super exciting.
Yeah, that's a
Right?
great idea. I've
I'd be
always said
playing
that
it.
like editing speed and successful builds or successful edits, editing speed and like how many shots you're landing is a
Yeah,
great way to like link people together. Because I feel like
absolutely.
I mean, our listeners are everywhere, right? We've got competitive players that listen. We've got people that are casual, and those poor individuals who are just trying out chapter 3 for the first time, will run into a bot, feel really special,
Right.
eliminate them. Then they're put up against Mr. Swings a lot, who's like
Right.
dashing from person to person, just eliminating like a psychopath.
Right.
And
The
then they
guy's
get
chasing him
eliminated
around the
without a
map.
chance. And they're like, all right,
I quit.
I had a good time later,
Yeah.
and I feel
And
like the more people we can get into the game, the more people that are excited about the game, the more everyone gets to grow from it. Like everyone.
absolutely. And I think that's the thing that the competitive scene doesn't remember because when you look at comp, right? Like on a good day, there's like, 10,000 people, maybe 20,000 people competing in a tournament, right? And like, I don't think the game should be designed only for the top 1,000
Right.
of those, right?
Right.
Because like if the top 1,000 players quit, there's 9,000 other players waiting to take their place. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And like at the end of the day, like if 100 pros quit, that's not going to really kill the game. What we need though is we need 10,000 up and coming pros to want to dedicate the time to get good.
Yeah.
Right? Because the thing we forget is in the original explosion of Fortnite, when Fortnite became a household game, it blew up and everyone was playing. But
Yep.
now, after 3, 4, 5 years, everybody's going to start quitting the game as they go to college, they get jobs. They're not going to be grinding it 8 hours a day as they go
Right.
out into real life if they're not making a living. But like, we got to incentivize the young kids of tomorrow to
Sure.
put in that time. And it's never going to be the same number. More people are going to be quitting than are going to be coming back, especially if you can't play the game for, without just getting slaughtered.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're putting the highest skilled in with people who just started yesterday.
Absolutely.
But,
That's great. So let's dive into the meta of chapter 3. Could you explain to our listeners the difference between the chapter 2 meta, maybe season 8,
All right.
and the chapter 1 meta season 1. What have you been seeing from a professional gameplay standpoint?
Chapter 1, season 1, going all the way back.
Oh, sorry, chapter
Or
3 season
chapter
1.
3,
Yeah.
season 1.
Yeah, my
Okay.
bad. My
So
bad.
the meta changes that I noticed, obviously the first thing was the introduction of the MK, right?
Mhm.
A recoil rifle, not a bloom one, but a recoil rifle, which with the red dot too, which really is, you know how people have since the beginning, people like Mongrel are like, I want to
Yeah.
change the color of my crosshair,
Right.
right? And I like the color red, right? That red dot is like really good. It's some of us, it's a different aiming mechanic, right? The half scope is a, you know, obviously it's kind of a Call of Duty like touch,
Yep.
but that's a big change. Having a recoil rifle that you can learn the recoil and having a different colored crosshair. So it's a
Mhm.
different aiming, like different people are going to vibe with that. And it's a really big change, right? Obviously, the SMG shredding, being able to shred builds. I mean, ping still has something to do with that, but being
Yep.
able to shoot through builds, that was a big change. So you have, and with the Spideys, somebody can't just tower 90s away from you, right? Like you have access to height, easier
Mhm.
access to height, which is a change, right? And you know, being able to, I guess, escape, and the introduction of all the different bushes and the heals, the fast
So many
heals, like
heals.
there's tons of splashes. So I feel like they've added a whole layer of survivability to this, where even if someone's hard pressing you, you can shred them as they've taken your wall. You can shred them while they're taking their wall, maybe escape to a different area,
Yep.
heal up quickly. And I feel like that extra survivability is like, because by at chapter 2 season 8, anybody who was not at the fastest tier possible, you're just trapped. You
Right.
were
You're
just
stuck.
trapped. If somebody
Mhm.
encountered you, they're gonna oop,
You're
bleep
fine.
me. Sorry, they're gonna box you up, and I'm gonna tone it.
You're fine.
Let's slow it down a little. All right, for the kids, do it for the kids. All right, so they're gonna box you up, and you're just gone, right? And you could maybe counter it if you had a gold pump
Mhm.
and really good aim, right? So in creative, you have some countering to it in the gold pump zone wars. But out on the field, maybe you don't have the gold pump. There was a time back in season 5 when everyone had access to the gold guns with the upgrade benches, but now they
Right.
kind of nerfed the upgrade benches in comp. At least they're useless, you know.
Right. Mhm.
But the survivability and the ability to fight back against a too aggressive opponent, I feel like they've done that wonderfully in chapter 3. And I think the super aggressive opponents, the super aggressors, are the ones who are chiefly complaining because they're feeling like, well, it's unskilled. And it's like, no, we just now have tools against you. And now
Sure.
you have to be a little smarter. Like you
Right.
have to learn some stuff too. You can't just reflexively eliminate us all because you have these like good genetics and this incredibly fast reaction time, and you've rehearsed this
Mhm.
thing like to a T. Like now you have to consider each and every opponent, which I think is like there's nothing wrong with that. I
Yeah.
think the most competitive game should make it like that. Like
Yeah.
the game is not competitive if you have the ability to run around just insta boxing and eliminating every opponent. That's
Yeah.
not even a competitive game anymore,
Right.
right? And you've noticed this, I know, and anybody who watches comp, the players play much different in finals than they do in opens. And I
Mhm.
think open should be as close to finals level competition as possible. And
Yeah.
if Epic can make it that way, it's going to be good for the game.
So, okay, this is all good. I love what
That's
you're
what I
sharing.
believe.
Yeah,
But
that's great. That's a great take on it. What do you, from Epic's standpoint, right?
yeah,
What do you think they're trying to do in this change? Like, what do you think they're like? At a board meeting, they're like, okay,
right,
this is where we're at. This is where we want to take people. What do you
right.
think their goal in these changes kind of are?
Well, see, I'm not sure, like, because they like I mean, on the one hand, I would think they have to be concerned, like any business, right? The saying in any successful business, and I've had successful ones and I've had failed ones, but you're only as good as your next new customer, right?
Right.
Your
Hmm.
most important customers are the customers you haven't met yet,
Yeah.
right? It's not I mean, your regulars are important, but they are like not the most important, right?
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
always got to be getting new customers, right? Now, if I were Epic, obviously they know that the game has been out for 4 years, right? 4 years in October of 2021, right?
Right.
At that 4-year mark, they know that everybody who started playing at 13, 14, 15 are kind of transitioning out of the game anyway, right?
Sure.
They know this. They know that right now, the next 2 years are the great transition where
Hmm.
a whole bunch of people who have not become clicks or Day or Tayson, those people who are not making a living doing this, but they've given everything to the game for 4 years, they're going to be migrating out,
Right.
right? Because they're going to have to get jobs. They're going to go to college, right? So obviously for them, I think if they're going to remake the game and if they're going to reshape the game, now is the time to do it
Mm.
because there's going to be a natural migration anyway, right?
Sure.
And so they may be saying like, let's really start reshaping this thing. And if I was them, that's what I would be doing. I would be knowing that there's a natural migration. We're going to be losing a bunch of people anyway. So now would be the time
Yeah.
to reshape it and sort of come from scratch because the problem is like comp is really great and it's really successful, and as long as there's a chance for a kid in the middle of America who's not on a pro sports team to be able to get good at a video game and maybe win $100,000 in a tournament,
Yeah.
there's always going to be kids chasing that,
Right.
right? But in order to keep that alive, they need hundreds of thousands of millions of people playing the game on a
Yep.
day-to-day basis. They
Yep.
can't just do it with the 5,000 players competing
Right.
for that money, right? So like and comp the viewership is very strong when it's exciting. It's not going to be exciting if the same 5 teams are top 5 every season in and out. That will get boring after a while. You need to have people like you need to be grappling for that number one position to really make it exciting, I think. So, I mean, if I was Epic, like I would be in a board meeting recognizing now that we're going to lose people anyway.
Yeah.
So now we need to focus on how we can get more people in,
Yep.
right? Or get people back, right? And so I think reshaping it is entirely like obviously I don't want to lose buildings. Somebody talked about
Yeah.
how
Totally.
they're going to make a non-building version and like I don't want to play night.
Yeah. Yeah.
I came here because of the fort,
Yeah. Exactly.
right? That
Exactly.
is the mechanic. But how do we keep it fresh,
Yeah. And I think like what's fun, I think, about how they're changing up some things is they added like tornadoes and thunderstorms and like this ability for tearing down trees to like fall on people. There is a physics based future of Fortnite that I think is exciting. I mean, a lot of people don't like
Absolutely.
fire in the wooden builds, but
I
could
love the
see
fire.
I
I
do too.
loved it.
I think it's
I-
hilarious.
Yeah.
But like I feel like they could do so much more with just those 3 builds, right? You have a
Right.
wolf, the wolf that blows down the pigs' houses. The wood didn't make it, the brick didn't make it, but the metal did. Like they could have that type of engagement with different things. Like I was even thinking first thunderstorm, it shoots lightning down. What if
Right.
if you have metal, it just like attracts like lightning
Right.
to the metal, right? So I
Oh,
feel like
yeah.
they
So
can
now
do
metal,
stuff.
or you could get electrocuted and lose some health if the
Exactly.
lightning strikes the metal and reverberates anybody who's touching that metal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that type of stuff would be really interesting. I mean, I died to some lightning. Like I was on height, I had
No
no
way.
builds. And the lightning hit the builds and knocked me off. And then I couldn't protect myself and I died when I was about to kill this kid. And I was very frustrated by it, but it made for great content.
Totally.
You know,
Totally.
And I mean, I love the idea of that. Like, I love the fire. I love those types of things. And even the Spidey thing bring into
Mhm.
like different types of movement ideas, right? And I think anything that makes you have to work hard to learn a new skill is not only good for the game, but it's good for our
Your
brains.
mental health, yeah.
Like, yeah, absolutely. Like I think challenge and that skill learning is just really good for all of us, right?
Yeah,
But I think though, I think one of the things that's been hard with the Fortnite gaming community around this, as Epic undergoes this change, is the level of toxicity that is just sort of stewing in the background. And
yeah,
it's I think it comes from what I mentioned before, where when you have kids who have spent their entire teenage years getting good at this game,
yeah,
where the only thing they're good at now is Fortnite, and they're very good at it, but they're not making a living like
yeah,
clicks. They're not a huge YouTuber, right? They're angry. They're
yeah,
angry and they're feeling negative and they're feeling resentful towards
yeah,
Fortnite, but they're still playing it because it's the only thing they're good at. And even if you're not running into those kids in game, that general negativity that's being
yeah,
poured into the playing of the game, I think it seeps into all of us.
totally.
And like it's just one of those things where if I were Epic, I would be in the back of my mind thinking, how can we encourage people who absolutely resent the game to quit while
Mm,
exciting a new player base? Like,
yeah,
like you almost have to think about that. Like you almost
sure,
want that negativity to like be removed from your framework because we
yeah,
feel it now. It's at a fever pitch now because everyone thought chapter 3 was going to be the answer and
mhm,
then it's not because I think on some level people are resentful that it's just a different game than it was 3 years ago. And if I were Epic, I would run with that and I would make it as different as possible, right?
yeah,
Like make
and I
it
mean,
brand
like,
new again.
I love that point, especially if you have a huge following, right? So if you have a huge following and you're toxic and kind of pushing that forward, you're justifying to your audience that that is a behavior that is okay in this environment. And I have found, like in my own personal life, like the more frustrated I am as a person, and if I have no way of getting an outlet out, it just becomes bitterness. You know, it just
Yeah.
soaks in and just becomes
Oh
bitterness, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
jealousy creeps, and then all of a sudden
Right.
you are becoming a different type of person. The one
Absolutely.
and you don't want that like for your audience at all. You don't want to be like Epic Games, the creator of toxic children.
Right.
You do want like to reward behavior that you know is healthy for the game. So I think
Yeah.
what you're saying is really crucial. How do you fix that though? You know,
Yeah.
like I feel like that's the hardest thing. You had mentioned just push harder into it's all new,
Right.
but I wonder how you push back against that.
Yeah, see, I don't know, man, because a lot of it is happening, I think, without people's realization. And I'm
Yeah.
not even talking about like the toxic game talk, right? Like I'm pretty toxic when I get a kill. I scream at the pixels and I yell toxic stuff, right? In game, right? But in a general sense of the how I fit into the community, I'm happy for people's success.
Yeah.
And I'm happy when Epic changes things and gives us new challenges. And I'm happy to see the game evolve and
Yeah.
grow and bring in new players, right?
Right.
But like the resentment though is complicated because part of it is like part of it I think it comes from the very nature of that competition. Like 13-year-olds
Mm.
competing for $100,000 and
Yeah.
not getting it. Maybe they're not really prepared to deal with like it depends on what's their parenting situation. Are they
Sure.
prepared to like give everything to this game and then not get any results? And like how are they going to like those are very adult things, learning how to grapple with that stuff. And
Yeah.
so I don't really know. I mean, maybe some of it could be like having more consequences for toxic behavior in game. Like I know as far as the
Yeah.
content creators go and even a lot of the pros, the stream sniping situation is outrageous, right?
Yeah.
And there doesn't seem to be a tool like you would think with Epic Games, like there could be a network where There could be some network where streamers that are popular could be plugged into an extra reporting network, where maybe
Yeah.
Epic could be monitoring this stuff for the bigger content creators or the bigger pros,
Yeah.
right? But then again, though, they don't want to lose all their player base for that, or certainly though people using cheats and
Oh
like
yeah.
the zenning that's going on. Like I know people have been complaining about the aim assist changes in the box. I've kind of thought that maybe Epic removes aim assist at times because they're collecting data.
Huh.
Like maybe they're collecting data right now and
Yeah.
they're looking for a way to overcome the cheats, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
And I've often thought that when they get rid of aim assist in certain situations, they're just data mining, right? Because they have to. They've got to, like the Zens and the cheats, like you have to fix that stuff, because if you don't, it calls into question the integrity of all the competitive, right? Like if even if 30% of the competitors are using Zens or scripts or something, that's a problem.
It's a big
You
problem.
know, you know what I mean? And we haven't been having lands to find out like what is and isn't, So I mean, they have a lot on their plate. I don't really know. Like that feels very
Yeah.
much above my pay grade. Like,
Totally. I remember the
it's
first time I went to a Fortnite LAN thing was TwitchCon. I was a part of
right.
like that, and I remember going to play, and they were like, "Okay, do you remember your keybinds?" And I was like, "No." And then they're like, "Okay, what mouse do you use?" And I was like, I at the time I used one that had like a bunch of buttons on it.
Right.
I had like all my builds on it and whatnot, and I was like useless, completely useless at a LAN party because I have my setup. I know what it's like.
Right.
I'm used to the setup, and so I came in not even trying to cheat, but just like used a mouse that it was like comfortable and helped me do more in the game. And
Right.
then now they gave me just a 2-clicker, and I was done. It was like over.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, it's such a different world. But I mean, with COVID and stuff, I feel like it's very normal for this behavior. It's like, we're not going to check or monitor any of that stuff because we can't. Like, there's no way to. So, yeah. It's a definite interesting problem that I'm
it
curious of,
is.
like, how they're going to follow through with some of that. It'll be interesting to see.
It's hard. And I think, though, that's another way of like introducing vast weapon changes, right? That can like especially when you think about the addition of a recoil pattern gun. Because now if they're getting data back from users that recoil pattern is not responding the way it should normally, they can suss out like they may be well ahead of all of us. Like I would hope they are, that they're thinking about this stuff. Because if I was them, I would be introducing things that would allow me to collect data to suss out who's manipulating the data with an exterior device. And because there's a saying, data don't lie. And that's true, man. It's absolutely true. It's like the data does not lie. And so that could be a part of what we're going through now, the process.
Interesting. Well, we're getting close to the end of our little conversation. I got one more question before we wrap up.
This has been amazing, by the way. Before the last question, thank you for like having me on this. I feel like privileged to be here, to be a part of your thing, boss.
You've been wonderful. It's been so awesome. We can always have you on again. What do you want for Fortnite? Like what is like a collaboration you've always wanted? What is something that you want for the future of Fortnite? It doesn't even have to be like cosmetic, but what's something that you've always wanted to come in to hopefully chapter 3?
Well, oh my gosh. I mean, on a personal level, I want to squat up with Ninja and Cypher PK and all those guys that got me into streaming. Like one day, like, oh my God, like if it could be me, Ninja, Cypher, and like Tfue playing squads, like, dude, I would be dead after that. I would I'd retire right there. That's one thing on a personal level, on a content level, to squat up with my idols. Now, on a chapter 3 level, like what I personally want to see from Fortnite is I want them to, like, I would love to see competitive be a different beast a year from now than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
Right. And because I felt like the heyday of competitive in chapter 2 was like seasons 5 and 6. right?
Yeah.
Season 5 had the sand tunneling, right? They had the upgrade benches so you could control your weapon, right? So you didn't necessarily have to land in the busiest spots. You could get enough mats and just hit an upgrade bench, control your weapons. It was controlled weapons, and the sand tunneling offered this varied movement in endgame, right? A mat saving thing. And then in chapter 6, they got rid of all the movement. So the storm was the enemy, right? And you couldn't take stupid fights. And you had to think about your weapons, right? You had to maybe fight off spawn with like, like the wrong weapons and stuff.
Trash.
Right. It was like you had to upgrade and stuff. So you had a lot more to think about. Nothing was automatic. And I really loved it. And actually, comp viewership was like the biggest during those 2 seasons. And so I would love to see, like, can they go so far out of bounds that competitive is like they're starting to do it with the formats, going from the 4-day qualifiers to 4-round qualifiers to 3-round qualifiers. Now they're doing both qualifying rounds in the same 4-day period, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Which is way different. But can they reshape the mechanics of comp? So comp even looks different than it did a year from now. I would love that. I would love, I think it's like it has become a little bit routine, right? And maybe it's the weather events, right? Maybe it's the lightning striking metal. I don't know. Maybe it's gravity working in a different way. Maybe there's gravity storms where like the later circles start having gravity where you have to like, I don't know what they could do to make it interesting, like no gravity zones on the map, that maybe the circle pulls and part of the circle's no gravity where you're floating or something, and you're building roofs over your head, and now you're roof building to mine your way through the low gravity zone until you get out of it, right? Where instead of building floors to prevent from falling, you're building roofs to prevent from going up. Like, I don't know what they could do, but I would love to see them really stretch the boundaries. I think to remake it.
Do you remember the season where there were the bubbles and you would go inside the bubble and it would be different? So like Tilted was like the saloon where you couldn't
the no build bubble. Yeah.
Or you go into the taco time area and you would do taco time every minute.
Right. And then recently they had the ones with the zombies, right? And no building recently.
I honestly loved those, but it was like probably the most hated feature. I think like the social media would not shut up about how frustrating it was for those different things, which I was like, from once again, a spectator standpoint, it is hilarious to watch the gladiator all of a sudden do taco time next to their enemy.
Right.
I am laughing, belly laughing.
Absolutely.
And then getting one pumped right after, you're like, that sucks for you, like it really does. It really sucks for the gladiator, but it is really good for everybody who's paying attention and watching it.
Absolutely.
And so I think like it's a hard medium. It's hard to find where the gladiators are also as excited as the fans that are watching.
Right.
It's a very hard balance. And I think they've been going back and forth with it,
It is. And I think one of the challenges is I think when a gladiator's been a gladiator for 5 years, I don't know if it's ever going to be perfect for them, because the longer you've been a gladiator, the more you just hate being a gladiator. Because being a gladiator is hard. You know what I mean? And like that's why I think one of the things that's interesting is I always use the NFL as an example, because I think they've done a great job. Like the NFL of my childhood was a run game. There wasn't even a lot of passing, and now it's a pass heavy game. And like the NFL has consistently doing rule changes that reshape the meta of the thing. And the players got to keep up or ship out, right? And the people who are going to stay are the ones who truly love the game. Because I think if you love the game, you love the ever-evolving metas. If you love a single meta of the game, maybe you don't love the game.
Right.
Maybe you just love that one thing you do. But I love the game, boss.
Yeah.
And so I want it to like keep changing, keep evolving, and keep challenging me. Like I want to like the day I wake up and I feel like I just own this game and I'm running around killing 50 people, like I'll move on to a different game, I think, at that point. But I'm a weirdo, right?
You're the best kind of weirdo. All right, Tommy. Last question for you.
Yeah.
What projects are we working on? What can fans look forward to? And in what ways can we support you? Also, what's your support a creator so people can do that as well?
Okay. My support a creator code is ActingLikeTommy. If you
Oh.
want to use that in the item shop, all my socials are ActingLikeTommy. My website where you can get that wonderful, where you can
Limitless.
say hi to our sponsors with the Limitless shirt, actingliketommie.com. Right? If you want to support, come by the stream or, consume some of the media. What I have coming in 2022 is what we talked about a little earlier, the whole process versus results orientation. I'm going to start doing mindset videos on my main YouTube channel.
Great.
YouTube/ActingLikeTommy. There are going to be videos about like dealing with hatred and bullying and lack of motivation and all those things. And they're going to be designed to sort of help people like learn ways to be more passionate about the grind. Because when you think about the word the grinding doesn't sound like it sounds like it could be hurtful, right? If you're grinding, right? But there are ways to do it painlessly and filled with passion. And I feel like I have some good insight on that. So I'm going to do some mindset videos, and I'm also going to start a YouTube podcast called The Politics of Humanity, where I talk about life and social issues, which I am prone to do in a non like left or right sort of mentality, but about being a humanist, like us just trying to make other human beings experience better,
I love it. Thank you
while
so much.
Screaming at the top of your lungs during it. Right?
Awesome.
I mean, because we're all toxic and we're all shining lights, and we just got to find a way of like blending those together in a way that elevates the people around us. That's what I want to do in 2022. I want to try and elevate, as many people as I can while screaming.
Next one, spoiler alert, elevate.
Elevate, baby. Let's go, boss.
Hey, thank you for being on this podcast. I really appreciate you. You are awesome. You are an inspiration, and I can't wait to tune in next to your streams. Thank you, Tommy, for being here. I really appreciate you. You are incredible. And of course, a special thank you to our listeners. Feel free to connect with us on Twitter at the Unvaulted Pod or me, the Squatting Dog. And also consider checking out Tommy's Twitch and use his support a creator code, Limitless, in his website. And until next time, I'm Squatting Dog. See you later, nerds.